Heyo, fantasy folks. It's week 13. It means, finally, it's week 13. We had a game yesterday on Wednesday afternoon. Weird, but it's COVID, so whatever. Somehow they're making it work, right? So we are now in the playoffs. And when I say we, I mean me. There's some others of y'all that are in the playoffs, but I want to focus on myself for a moment and the greatness that is Lucille's balls. That said, I want to point out that I'm wearing my Earl Campbell jersey that my lovely wife gave me, who didn't make the playoffs. I'll get into that later. But I'm wearing my Earl Campbell jersey, and I think it's pretty fitting because looking at my matchup, I'm probably going to lose in the first round. And, you know, what's more Houston Oilers, Houston Texans than that? You know, making it to the playoffs, but losing immediately once you get there. So, I'll get to the playoffs in a second. First, let's run through the consolation bracket, also sometimes known as the losers bracket. But there's no losers here unless you come in dead last. Don't be dead last. If you're in the consolation bracket, keep playing the waiver wire. Keep setting up your lineups. You know, you might as well, do the best you can. And, you know, maybe you might learn something so that maybe next year, like me, you can be in the playoffs. All right, so consolation bracket. I'm going to open up the wife's team. Barely missed the cut. The Gridiron came in at 7-5. We have, I think, 3 7-5 teams that are in the playoffs. She just happened to have the least points of all the 7-5 teams. That said, she did have a big win this week over Team Perry. She's throwing stuff at me. Over Team Perry, but it wasn't enough to get her into the playoffs. That said, overall, she's had a pretty good year considering where she started. Remember, she had the accidental auto draft and had all wide receivers and no running backs. The only running back she had was Nick Chubb. But she picked up James Robinson off the waiver wire that first week. And that James Robinson might be the best waiver wire pickup, not only of this year, but maybe of any year I've ever played fantasy football. So she did the best she could, but again, not enough to get into the playoffs. She's going against Too Good For You. Too Good For You, normally a playoff team. This year, hurt really by injured quarterbacks. Not his own quarterback, mind you, but, you know, he's got guys like Amari Cooper. Without Dak, Amari Cooper's kind of useless. He's got Kamara, who, weirdly enough, without Breeze, has turned into kind of useless, you know? So he came in at 5-7 so far for the regular season. Still always a tough team to play, though. Next, we've got Riverside Smash sitting at 4-8 going against Football Team Perry. Riverside Smash, big question there is Jonathan Taylor going to be back? You know, Jonathan Taylor's got a great schedule for the playoffs, but again, these are the consolation rounds. But I think he is off the COVID list and will probably play again. Football Team Perry sitting at 5-7 for the regular season. Was kind of on the cusp of possibly making the playoffs. You know, they've had some injuries. Lost Lamar Jackson, who really never really lived up to the hype this year. Waiting to find out what's going on with Julio, that sort of thing. And then we've got the bottom of the barrel, if you will. We've got 52 Ball Scratch sitting at 2-10, going against Fayetteville River Rats at 3-9. These two are battling it out for who's going to be the worst team in the league this year. 52 Ball Scratch is our defending champion, Tim Spain. Remember, he auto-draft because he chose to play golf instead. And you figured it worked for him the year before. It did not work for him this year. Again, 2-10. Meanwhile, Fayetteville River Rats was also having some issues during the draft. Next year, I'm going to try and schedule the draft a little better. This year we almost didn't think we were going to have a season, but he was having some issues during the draft as well. ended up, having to play the waiver wire kind of to fix his team. Did the best he could, but he's sitting at 3-9. His best player is probably Russell Wilson, who was real hot at the beginning of the year, but's kind of cooled down lately.
Hello. Coming this spring, we present Werner Herzog's newest examination of the fragile life that wanders aimlessly across banal existence. And this time, it's chickens. Again. Chickens.
The enormity of their flat brain, the enormity of their stupidity is just overwhelming. You have to do yourself a favor when you're out in the countryside and you see chicken. Try to look a chicken in the eye with great intensity, and the intensity of stupidity that is looking back at you is just amazing. By the way, it's very easy to hypnotize a chicken. They're very prone to hypnosis, and in 1 or 2 films I've actually shown that.
Chickens. Why the hell not?
So that's consolation bracket. Now, let's get to the winners, the playoffs. All right, I'm going to open up. We're going to talk about the 2 teams that got our buys, the number 1 and number 2 teams. Lloyd Dobler Express, man, just rolled over Jive Turkeys to hold that number 1 position. They are sitting at 9-3. They got a bye round 1. They get a week off, all right? Number 2 seed, Memphis Mains, was able to beat 52 Ball Scratch to kind of hold on to that number 2 spot. Sitting at 8-4, they've also got a bye. Now, let's talk about the matchups that are actually going to be played this week. I'm going to start with my own. Jive Turkeys sitting at 7-5, went down a spot because they lost to Lloyd Dobler Express. And they are sitting at, they actually, went down 1 spot. They're sitting at 5. I'm sitting at 4. We're both 7-5 teams. It doesn't really matter at this point what our ranking is or whatever, because we're playing each other in the first round anyways. And man, like, Jive Turkeys, man, they put up like 150 points, I think, against Lloyd Dobler. It just wasn't enough. I'm not feeling great about this. I'm just going to be honest with you. Jive Turkeys has got, Josh Allen, Derrick Henry, Travis Kelce, dudes like that, that put up big numbers. Meanwhile, my poor Lucille's balls, I've got Deshaun Watson, who had a big week over Thanksgiving, but lost his number 1 wide receiver, who was suspended. That also affects Trash Pandas as well. We'll talk about that in a second. But, Deshaun Watson's now got, Kiki Cutie, former Texas Tech Raider, go Red Raiders, woo, guns up. He's got Brandon Cooks, some backup running backs, Randall Cobb, I think, is still on IR. So not really feeling great about my quarterback. And then I got a bunch of beat up running backs, a whole slew of them. You know me, I collect running backs. This year they're just all really gimpy. I got CEH, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who is on the injury report, also having to share touches with Le'Veon Bell. I've got Chris Carson, who is back from injury, but now is showing back up on the injury list. I got Dobbins, J.K. Dobbins, who I traded for right after the draft. I traded Lloyd Dobler Express, Antonio Gibson for J.K. Dobbins before, within 20 minutes after the draft, and that may go down as the dumbest trade I've ever made, and maybe the dumbest one ever made in this league, because Gibson has just been phenomenal, and Dobbins has had one good game, which he came out of nowhere, so he's sitting on my bench, and then immediately after was on the COVID list, so I couldn't use him then. So, I don't know what I'm going to do for running backs this week. But that's my sad tale. So I think Jive Turkey is probably going to knock me out round 1. But again, hey, we're the Houston Oilers. Yeah. Moving on. The number 6 team is the Trash Pandas. Much like me, they're hurting from losing Will Fuller to that suspension. Trash Pandas are sitting at 7-5. They're going against Everyone is Broken. So Trash Pandas, like I said, they're a lot like my team, right? Like they're hurting from the Fuller suspension, and they got a bunch of beat up running backs. I know Josh Jacobs, James Conner. I don't think either one of them is going to play. I know he's got David Johnson on IR, so he's hurting. He's feeling it. But I do want to give some congrats because he did make the playoffs despite going 0-2 at the beginning of the season. Again, his first win of the season was against me, so that's great. Anyways, that kind of began the beginning of my downward slide. But nonetheless, he made it to the playoffs. Congrats there, Chris. He's going against a really tough team, man. Everyone is broken is not broken at all. Everyone is broken is about to get healthy. They are about to destroy some teams because any day now, Christian McCaffrey might be coming back, right? They've already got David Montgomery back. David Montgomery is like the worst running back to watch. But if he's on your team, he consistently puts up points because he's like the guy there. Meanwhile, they've also, wide receiver, they've got the 2 Devontaes, Adams and Parker, crushing it. And yeah, overall, Everyone is Broken, I think, has a solid chance to make a run here. So that's the lowdown. I think probably the semifinals are probably, obviously Lloyd Dobler and Memphis Mains, and then probably you're going to have those teams playing, against Jive Turkeys and Everyone is Broken, and then the winner of those games will be in the finals. So that's that at this point. A couple of y'all still owe me dues. I will be trying to collect because, we're a few weeks from having to pay out the winners. Other than that, set your lineups, do the best you can. I will be, probably sacrificing some chickens, maybe a virgin. I don't know. It's going to take a lot. I know that I'm going to have to, it's not going to be easy for me to pull off a win this week. I may just, sacrifice just, I don't know, a bunch of virgins. But I live in a college town. What are the odds that I can find one? Anyways, those are the matchups. The playoffs are here. I will see y'all on the Fantasy Gridiron. And Bubba, I give you my war cry. Ah!